Outbreak of the Zika virus in Florida has prompted the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to issue a travel warning for Miami Beach.
Pregnant women are being warned not to travel to Miami Beach in Florida after new cases of the Zika virus were reported in the area. 5 people, including 3 tourists, are the latest people to contract the virus. Earlier this month, a public health emergency was declared in the U.S. after 10,000 cases of the virus were confirmed. The latest news is a major blow to the state's tourist industry, and officials are spraying insecticides in an attempt to keep the mosquitoes away.
There are now 2 Zika zones in Miami, one in Wynwood and another about a 0.5-mile radius of Miami Beach.
So this brings the total number of cases to 36 across the region. Miami Beach Mayor Philip Levine says there's no epidemic there, and he's joining us now on the phone. Mayor, thanks for taking time out under what I'm sure are very difficult circumstances. Are you prepared for a potential Zika outbreak in your city?
Well, we don't expect to have one. Thank you for having me on. I mean, the information we got actually this morning was that there are 5 cases linked to Miami Beach, and those are 3 tourists that I'm not even sure if they're here anymore, and of course 2 residents. I guess they were locally transmitted, from what we understand from the Florida Department of Health, and we're working with the Florida Department of Health, our county, and we're doing everything in our power. Clearly there's no mosquito epidemic on Miami Beach, but what we are doing is we're taking all precautionary measures. We're making sure that we're spraying in this small area of Miami Beach, make sure there are no mosquitoes left. We're making sure that there's no water that's around anywhere on the street, so that there's no way for breeding of mosquitoes. So we've been doing this since January. We've been very aggressive, and we're just going to really increase our efforts dramatically.
South Korea has confirmed its 10th case of Zika infection. The Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the patient is a 35-year-old man who came back from a trip to Thailand on August 8th. Officials say he was confirmed after showing typical Zika symptoms like muscular pain, fever and rash. He is said to be in stable condition and receiving treatment at a hospital in Seoul. This latest case comes around 3 weeks after Korea's 9th case was confirmed.
An estimated 130 million. That's the number of people the United Nations says depend on humanitarian aid today, the largest number on record. Grouped together, they would be the 10th most populous nation in the world. That's the message from UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon as the international agency marks World Humanitarian Day with a theme of One Humanity and a digital campaign called World You'd Rather. Now, that campaign involves taking an online quiz to answer some difficult questions like these. Would you rather drink cholera-contaminated water or cross a minefield to get clean water? Would you rather eat rotten food found among tsunami debris or go hungry? Would you rather struggle for months or years in a makeshift camp or pay a smuggler and risk drowning at sea? Grim questions, but it certainly puts you in the shoes of those faced with these decisions every day.
The humanitarian crisis that Nigeria is currently facing. The United Nations Refugee Agency says the country's economic slowdown, compounded by Boko Haram attacks, could mean that 5.5 million people will need food aid in the northeast region by September. Susan Wangeli reports.
The Nigerian military has made significant gains against Boko Haram in recent months. Despite the gains, though, the United Nations warns that the military campaign has exposed catastrophic levels of suffering and a vast regional crisis.
There are numerous reports of human rights violations, including deaths, sexual violence, disappearances, forced recruitment, forced religious conversions, attacks on civilian sites. Some 800,000 additional internally displaced people have been identified as needing help.
According to the UNHCR, there have been frequent hit-and-run incidents by militants, including suicide bombings, attacks on civilians, torching of homes and theft of livestock.
Many of the displaced are women, children, the elderly. There are urgent needs pretty much wherever we're looking. We've seen adults so exhausted they're unable to move, children with swollen faces, hollow eyes, other clear indications of acute malnutrition. Many also show signs of severe trauma. We have people screaming at night. We have aggression among children. People complain about a lack of food and water.
UNICEF has warned of a spike in the recruitment of child soldiers to fight in South Sudan's civil war. UNICEF's Deputy Executive Director, Justin Forsyth, says there is an ongoing mobilization program in some remote areas of the country aimed at getting people into armed groups as fears spread of an escalation in violence. Now, the UN body believes that around 16,000 children have been recruited into armed groups since December 2013. Fighting between rival militias has recently flared up again as groups loyal to President Salva Kiir clash with supporters of former Vice President Riek Machar and the SPLA in opposition party.
The flood in the U.S. state of Louisiana has been labeled the worst natural disaster to strike the United States since Hurricane Sandy in 2012. The Red Cross says it anticipates the cleanup costs will amount to at least $30 million, a figure that could grow as the scope and magnitude of the devastation becomes clearer. Officials say around 40,000 homes were impacted by the floods and more than 86,000 people have so far registered for federal aid, with that number expected to grow.
Yanbu hit Guangdong province on Thursday before moving to Hainan province, where a relentless rainstorm raged for 5 days, causing one death and leaving at least 2 people missing. More than 780,000 people were relocated and over 800 houses destroyed. The direct economic losses are estimated to be over 1.1 billion yuan. Local authorities are in the midst of helping residents to recover from the damage that's been caused.
100,000 children that he says are, quote, trapped in the horror in the Syrian city of Aleppo. Reports said earlier this week that at least 45 civilians were killed in Aleppo and to the west of the city, and another 22 died in neighboring Idlib province. Meantime, civilians are using lulls in the fighting to flee Hasaka, a northeastern city of Syria where government warplanes bombed Kurdish-held areas. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a British-based group, says dozens of civilians have been killed in Hasaka over the past 2 days.
2 days ago, U.S. Air Force Secretary Deborah Lee James told Sputnik regarding the 50 to 70 B-61 tactical gravity nuclear bombs stored at Incirlik Air Base in Turkey, "We do have nuclear weapons, and those nuclear weapons are safe and secure, and we are confident in that." Now, Debka is reporting the United States has begun secretly evacuating the tactical nuclear weapons it had stockpiled at the southern Turkish air base of Incirlik and is transporting them to U.S. bases in Romania. Is this a reaction to the failed coup, or is there a larger strategy at play here? As this reaction finally comes after the worst foreign policy administration in U.S. history remained quiet as power was cut to the Incirlik air base and was put on lockdown while hordes of Turkish protesters gathered outside the base over the purported CIA link to the recent coup attempt, a link that winds its way back to Fethullah Gulen and his movement, the same Gulen who is protected by the Obama administration and maintains a charter school empire in the United States that has angered labor unions while siphoning money from the American taxpayers through those charter schools to fund his movement. The results of the failed coup in Ankara, Turkey, that claimed 294 lives and saw thousands arrested has awarded President Erdogan unlimited dictatorial control over his country. The New York Times reported Turkey said on Wednesday that it would empty its prisons of tens of thousands of criminals to make room for the wave of journalists, teachers, lawyers, and judges rounded up in connection with last month's failed coup. Numerous sources are now confirming that the Incirlik nukes are being moved to the Deveselu air base in Romania. Meanwhile, 2,000 NATO troops have conducted airborne training operations in Poland, while Obama pledged 1,000 extra troops to Poland. Russian President Vladimir Putin is urging Erdogan to pick a side as the proxy situation in Ukraine, funded by the United States.
We've invested over $5 billion to assist Ukraine in these and other goals that will ensure a secure and prosperous and democratic Ukraine.
Is it possible that the majority of the civilian casualties that you're talking about were actually civilian casualties that were the victims of the Ukrainian army and the oligarch that financed 1/3 of their army at one point? Is that possible?
If I could say two things. First, I think it's highly unlikely on the basis of the reports that we've received from the United Nations and from the OSCE. Second, I want to underscore again why this conflict started. It started because Russia moved troops and weapons and so forth into eastern
Just so you know,
Ukraine.
Madam Secretary, the Russians would suggest it started when there was a violent overthrow of an elected government.
Right. I don't make it a point of listening to President Putin's claims as a general rule. I don't find them credible.
I think that if you are our representatives, you should pay attention to everybody's claims, and you should refute them if they can be refuted rather than dismissing them.
And quarterbacked by George Soros, an escalation now forcing Putin's hand as 40,000 Russian troops are now sitting on the Ukraine's eastern border. Our media and government should be working to de-escalate this nuclear powder keg with rational reporting and diplomacy. However, Obama golfs, Hillary thumbs her nose at Putin, and George Soros sways public opinion to lead the world to the razor's edge of World War III.